Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, and everybody's here. We're talking football, but football from further afield than usual, because that's right, it's international break time. We will be talking England football, some interesting score predictions, some that you might not expect, let's put it that way. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop any reviews you want to drop, and just generally share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this podcast their way and they'll thank you for it. Right, let's get started. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Again. She doesn't lie. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen. We've got another thrilling instalment of football-based chatter for you. But of course, I can't do it alone, although I'm sure I could give it a pretty good go.
I was just about to say, I'm pretty sure you could do it without me.
Well, you've heard his name. You've heard his voice now, ladies and gentlemen. So let's jump straight over to Mr. Andrew Cook and see how you're doing, sir.
I am a delight. I'm delightful. It's becoming a catchphrase, and I'm unfortunately starting to like it.
Well, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's pretty broke.
Mr. Matthew Moore, Nottingham Forest fan. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
And coming off the back of another week of supporting his team diligently, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey, how are you, sir?
Furious is the
no spoiler alerts for what's occurred in the week 8 results just yet. But yeah, you might be able to garner from that particular reaction that Mr. Woodmansey not too thrilled with his team's last couple of performances. But we're not going to start with talking about Hull, as we had game action on Friday evening last week, where Nottingham Forest took on fellow promoted team Fulham at the City Ground. Mr. Moore, what went wrong?
I mean, if people go and listen to last week's podcast, just do that, because pretty much the same. I think the word was capitulation, and same again. So obviously took the lead in the first half. A 1-1 scored, which I think it's kind of one of them things where I'm glad that obviously the second goal that he scored, and he's getting seems to be getting a bit of a run in the team. So that was kind of the start, and then you kind of, usual kind of thing. It's not on telly, so you're kind of watching a bit of Sky Sports, getting the misery from them, and then the Forest score as well, and then you kind of you take a minute to kind of do something, sort some things around. I was doing something very interesting at the same time, like some safeguarding training or something like that. And then,
because of the football, isn't it?
And then I'm like, all right, I better check. I'll just give the thing a quick check, and then it's like, oh yeah, there he goes. There's the reporter pops up. Oh yeah, Forest have been dominant for the first 15 minutes of or first 10 minutes of the second half. They really got a foothold. Oh yeah, there's the first Fulham goal. We'll go back to it. Oh yeah, let's go back to a second goal. And then the third goal rolled in, so not quite as well, even worse than the Bournemouth kind of thing. It went from Forest leading to Forest losing, and basically lost the match in 5 minutes. So Tosin, Gonçalves and Reed all score within 5-6 minutes of each other. And it's the same kind of thing, like we talked about it over and over again. I think this is the kind of concerning thing about Forest is kind of when we talked about it last year when they came up against good sides, they didn't have a plan B. I know I said this last week, but it seems to be a recurring theme of there is no plan B. Once things start going wrong, it goes wrong, and it goes big wrong kind of thing, and it goes big wrong quickly. And you just think, there's got to be... And they've signed all these defenders. Apparently, Bowley was taken off to have Joe Worrell put back on. They went to 2 at the back. I think my major concern at the moment is that they've got. I think again we talked about this last week. They've got 3 central defenders. Two of them definitely have no pace whatsoever. But I think you can generally cover that. But the problem also happens is the fact that both of their wing backs, and they're definitely wing backs, are very attacking minded. Whenever you see the highlights, the most forward player at times is definitely Lodi, the Brazilian left back that they brought on. And that guy is not just in the 18-yard box, he's by the penalty spot. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, mate. You know, in this league, we're going to get absolutely humped if they don't start doing something different. So, is that 4 at the back and you load the midfield? Is it? I don't know what but I'm not paid to do this. What do they do differently? You know, because they're trying every combination of every single player that they've bought. Well, not yet, because there's definitely not enough minutes in the season to practice every combination of every single player that we've bought. But I don't know. He's dropping players that are playing well. The resounding kind of feedback at the moment from Forest fans is Lewis O'Brien is an outstanding footballer and should be playing, and everybody, and he's been dropped for Freuler, who seems to be who was apparently a very good player, gets dropped for Yates, who I don't know, you know, is he going to be good enough for the Premiership? Possibly not. He looked all right against Everton, but when you've got good players playing well, you don't drop them. And I think there's this kind of mad kind of thing they're trying to create a team whilst, you know, if you're going to buy 20 players, maybe you should have bought the 20 players before the season had started. Not, you know, they perhaps bought, I don't know what they were at before the season started. It was certainly only just double figures, and then they bought another team's worth of players. And then they're trying to fit them all into the team. And with, you know, it's like, ooh, we've got the international break. A good chunk of those players have gone away on international duty, so you're not building anything because those players aren't there. But that being said, Lewis O'Brien was brought on in the second half and got a goal back. So finished 3-2, and another disappointing loss to a fellow promoted side. That's where the point should be coming from this year, and we've dropped 6 points in 2 games to 2 clubs that we probably should have taken points from, but haven't. So all the grim predictions from the computers are looking likely at the moment. So yeah,
not good. Like you said, a lot of new players. It's going to take them a bit of time to gel. The players who don't obviously play for their country can use this sort of week, 10 days, to work on, I guess, shape, sort of like transitions through the thirds and things like that.
Hopefully they've really sat down and had a good look at the tactics and what they're doing, and have come up with, like I said, the most egregious thing for me is that whenever you see it, there never seems to be a second. There's no plan B, and when it starts going wrong, it escalates quickly. It gets out of hand very, very quickly, and it's not just the one goal, and then it's the next goal after. That happened last season as well, but it just happens so quickly. You're just like, right, well, that's the game done. Kind of thing.
I think that's the worrying thing. I mean, obviously, teams are always going to concede goals. That's just part and parcel of football. It's the conceding in a glut that's the worrying thing. And as soon as your team starts to concede, like in the space of 5 minutes, there's huge problems there. And like you said, obviously, like you'd imagine that when it comes back to the next game, obviously we'll do it in the predictions when we record next week. But you'd imagine that it's probably going to be one of those basic reset games that I always go on about whenever we talk about it. If a team's been pumped, normally it's a case of just literally just like shut up shop. Even if you have to take the 0-0, just make sure you don't concede, and then we'll start again from scratch, get ourselves back to like a base level, and see how we get on. But from a predicting point of view, not the best week really, as myself and Stuart gone for a 1-1 draw, no points there. I'd gone for Dennis and Mitrovic to score, no points there. Stuart gone for Gibbs-White and Pereira to score, no points there. Andy had gone for a 2-1 Forest win with Johnson and Gibbs-White to score, no points there. Mitrovic to score for Fulham, no points there. However, Mr. Moore did go with a 3-1 Fulham win. So if Lewis O'Brien hadn't have got that second goal, he'd have been on for a cheeky 2 points. Sadly, he does just get the 1 point for the Fulham win there. He also had a Wonyi to score for Nottingham Forest, so it gets himself a second point. He did, however, have the Fulham goals down as 2 for Mitrovic and 1 for Decordova Reed. So he's done himself out of points by putting an extra bit in someone's surname. Harrison Reed getting the 3rd Fulham goal. So, points for this week. Myself, Stu and Andy, bagels all round. But Matt does go into the next game with 2 points. Our next game takes us to South Wales, where Swansea City took on Hull City. And this will be where we discover what's grinding Mr. Woodmansey's gears. Please.
So, you know how last week, again, we said about there was no plan B for Hull? Matt's obviously mentioned that it's a common theme between our teams at the moment. So, after the defeat against Stoke, there was calls for the goalkeeper to be changed to Nathan Baxter, back from injury. Happy to report that against Swansea, he was back between the sticks. So, okay, tick 1. I said on the last week's podcast, after seeing him come on against Stoke, that Pelkas deserved a start. That happened as well. So, 2 things. The whole bit about playing a back 3 that aren't quick enough to get the ball away from their own goal in time before somebody comes and smashes it in the net didn't get resolved, and that's kind of a little bit more important. So it finished Swansea City. Oh, bearing in mind it was 0-0 at half time as well. Swansea City 3, Hull City 0. And yeah, goals for Ryan Manning on 61 minutes, and then 2 goals for Figueredo. Oh no, wait a minute. 2 goals let in by mistakes caused by Figueredo, but scored by Luke Cundle and Joel Pirou. So, again, beginning of the season, happy to get a defender from a team that effectively, got themselves promoted from Mr. Moore's Nottingham Forest. Turns out that they're laughing all the way to the bank at the moment, because I would not trust that guy to just even put his foot through it, like, comfortably. And if you asked him to hit Rose Ed, he'd probably not even get it off the side of the pitch. Like, how that guy makes his living as a defender is entirely beyond me. So it's getting a little bit tough to watch at the moment, and didn't have a lot of faith in the manager because of the fact that he insists on playing this 3 at the back and let's pass the ball out from the goal, and they're not good enough or quick enough to do it. Yet we're still persisting, and we've had 2 3-0 losses now, back to back, and he's still got a job. So work that one out.
So, this might come up based on conversation we have slightly further on, but something I heard on another podcast was that there's a potential that anyone who's looking to change the manager might be tempted to wait until November, because then you basically get a free 6-week hit to work with the players who don't go to the World Cup. So rather than make the change now, you'd rather persist for the next 6 weeks or so that takes us up to the start of the World Cup.
He's been persisting me right off for quite a long time now. The back end of the season wasn't great. There was two wins when he took over, when the new ownership came in, that were effectively playing Grant McCann's system with Grant McCann's players, and it made everything look rosy. And then he got found out very quickly. All you'll hear from the local radio is how much of a nice man he is, and how he's got a good footballing brain. I'm sure at least 50% of that is correct, but 50% of that doesn't really get you anywhere when you could not. If anything, it's just proof you cannot buy a result in this division. You cannot go out and spend the amount of money that we've spent and be 20th after this many games. Like, it's. I know Paul's going to pull a funny face, but do you know what, Paul? When I checked the league table, there was part of me that went, "Oh well, could be worse," and then there was part of me that went, "Yeah, but that's my friend's team, so it's still pretty bad anyway." So yeah, it's not good at the moment. Not good at all.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where you don't really know what to say. Having seen not all of the goals, but the one where Figueiredo has the chance to clear the ball, decides not to, has the chance to just absolutely leather it and decides not to. Then for some reason I think Baxter comes to claim it, but has to go through Figueiredo. Figueiredo feels some sort of touch and throws himself to the floor, at which point the Swansea guy just nips in and tucks it back, and it's smashed in.
But again, that comes from the fact that they're not quick enough just to get the ball out from the back. That was their second goal. The third goal was a routine clearance, either down the line or a pass much wider than it was, and he just played it straight to Perot, like as if he was playing for Swansea. Like, just laid it on perfectly. If a Swansea player had been in that same position, he could not have hit a better pass.
Worrying times, but like you say, they've got this break now where it's kind of weird in that the international breaks kind of come at a perfect time for every one of our teams. Feels like something just needs to happen where they just need to get them down, go through tactics with them, just basically drill them as much as they can in what they need to be doing, position, like transitions and things like that. Just get that down and then go again in this next little sort of like mini season, because it's almost like we've got 4 or 5 mini seasons during the season, because obviously the next one will work up until the start of the World Cup. Then we'll come back from the World Cup and we'll go again. So we're sort of almost starting the second mini season from next week.
I don't want to be like, I'm going to sound slightly snarky here, but Forest had the best part of 2 weeks off between the last game and the Fulham game, and unless they were not working to mourn the passing of the Queen, then I would assume they didn't do much to change anything in the 2 weeks there. So like, I don't know.
The one thing I'll say for Cooper, from what you said, yes, he hasn't played a settled team or whatever, but and he keeps changing stuff. At least they're trying. Like, if he's changed things up, at least he's trying something. Whereas, like, Avalatse, like, has got nothing. Like, he'll it's literally nothing. Literally nothing. I cannot say this enough. There is nothing there. Get rid of the man now. The mini-season stuff, I agree with. Fair enough. How long did you give him? He had a mini-season when he took over. Did shit. He's had a mini-season up to now, done worse. Just bin him off.
Obviously, the chairman will have something in his head about like he'll have a. I imagine he'll have a run of games where he'll say, "Listen, they've got." Let's say they've got Bristol City, Cardiff, Coventry, and Sunderland in the next 4 games or whatever. Arguably, if we don't get 8 points minimum out of that, he's done.
So
that'll be across the board.
Hull's next 3 games are Luton at home, which is a much probably tougher fixture than it used to be maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But then we've got Wigan at home and Huddersfield away. 7 points from them 3 games.
Yeah,
has to be. They need it.
I mean, that's the problem in it. It's a case of on paper, you say Middlesbrough at home against Cardiff and Rotherham, 6 points minimum. I say 6 points minimum. You can't get any more than 6 points because it's worth 3 points a game. You'd say it's a nailed-on 6 points, and spoiler alert, we're going to get to it, but you come out of that with 1 point. That's, for a team that's supposed to be at the top of the division challenging for promotion, that's weak form, weak performances. But listen, I think we're in a bit of a strange season. Obviously, I keep coming back to it with the World Cup being right in the middle of the season. So you're going to get strange decisions being made, and like I said, I think a lot of chairmen are probably not going to sack managers at the drop of a hat because they know they've got this time coming where they could do it in a more time-sensitive manner. I don't know, is the best sort of phrase. I can't really phrase it any better than that. But just to sort of put a nice little sort of bow on the predictions, this was the game I was talking about where you've come off the back of a 3-0 defeat, so you want to go down and have a nice reset game. Just make sure you don't concede. So I went for this as a 0-0, so no points for me. Stu and Andy had both gone for 1-1 draws. Stu had gone for Cooper to score for Swansea and Pelkas to score for Hull. No points there. Andy's 1-1 was Obafemi to score for Swansea and Longman to score for Hull. No points there. Matt, however, sticking in the back of the net once again with a 1-0 Swansea win with Pirot to score. So he gets himself another 2 points. So, myself, Stu and Andy, no points from 2 games so far. Matt with 2 points from the first game, 2 points from the second game. We close out the week with, as said before, Middlesbrough home to Rotherham United. This one was on TV. It kicked off at 7:45. It could have been played till 11:45, 2:45, 3:45. It could still be going now. It would still be 0-0. Just the epitome of just one of those games where nothing was working. A lot of the ball was played. I'd love to look at the possession stats and the breakdown of the game and stuff like that, because I imagine the majority of the ball that was in play spent it in the middle third of the pitch. Just so many misplaced passes. Like, obviously, the Premier League is the creme de la creme, and the Championship is supposed to be like, the next level down. Oh my, the standard of some of the players in the Championship is worse than National League at times. It's so bad. This one wasn't as bad as the Cardiff game for misplaced passes, but it was up there. Just the best chance Middlesbrough had. I mean, I don't think I counted a save that Zach Steffen had to make in the Middlesbrough goal. He was returning after the Cardiff game. He's missed the last few with injury. Paddy McNair had been dropped from the defence with Anthony Dijksteel coming in, and obviously that shored up one side of things, got them the clean sheet, only the second clean sheet of the season. But just same old going forward. They're just missing chances that you would have thought they would put away. Duncan Watmore seems to be the main culprit, as always. Had a good chance, and it turned out it was actually a good save by the keeper in the end. Hit the post, bounced across, went out. That was probably the best chance of the game. But other than that, not a great deal that happened in that game. As we said before, Wilder very much in the under pressure camp. You'd imagine that he's going to use this time in the international break just to try and get through to a few of them that they absolutely have to do this. They come back from the international break with a game against Coventry, who are the only team in the league without a win. Oh, fucking dear.
If it makes you feel any better, Swansea had the lowest shot conversion in the league before they played us, so we've taken that one away from you whenever you get it.
That's nice. I saw a tweet just before we started that said that the team with the most expected goals this season is Middlesbrough, so at least they're top of some sort of table. Nice. Predictions-wise, we all had varying degrees of Middlesbrough wins, so no points from a results perspective. I had Fours 1-0, Andy had McGree 1-0, Stu had Jones and Muniz for 2-0, Matt had Crooks and Muniz for 2-1, with Wood getting the goal for Rotherham. So, it doesn't take a mathematician to work out that ending the week with 0 points from 3 games played is myself, Andrew Cook, and Stuart Woodmansey.
We're working on golf scores this week. It's fine.
Exactly. So we just the number of goals scored by our respective team. Taking the win with a whopping 4 points for the second week in a row. Not points, but taking the win. It is Matthew Moore. Well done, sir. Very, very well done. As we've said, it's the international break, so there is no Middlesbrough, Hull or Nottingham Forest games to predict. We could have taken the podcast to League 2 and predicted some Hartlepool United games, but I did not want to do that to these poor gentlemen, as even Pools fans don't really want to pay attention to Pools at the moment, so we'll stick with the England games. But before we do that, we are just going to take a very small commercial-free break. Join us again on the other side.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say, thank you for continuing, if you will. So, as we said before the break, no domestic fixtures to predict this week, as the team is on international break. So we do have some Nations League games to go through. So England will finish their Nations League campaign against Italy and Germany, respectively, needing a bit of a minor miracle, I think, to avoid being relegated from the top division. So they will start their week of destiny, shall we say, against the team that they faced in last summer's Euro 2021 final in Italy, taking place in Italy. Obviously, we're all England fans, so technically no one will go last or go first, I suppose. So I'll dive straight in and give my prediction. No idea why I've actually picked this, but I've gone for an England 2-1 win. For some strange, bizarre reason. I've gone with Politano to score the goal for Italy, who I have never heard of before, but it seems like he's played a lot of Italy games so far this season. And then I've gone for Kane and Sterling to get one each for England. Mr. Cook, what do you reckon?
You think yours is weird? Try England 1-0 with Kane to score.
A 0, a 1, a Kane. Nice and simple. Mr. Woodmansey.
I mean, I'm not sure why you felt the need to read Andy's prediction back in a semi-Italian accent then for a second. But I am not optimistic. I'm going to go for Italy 2-0 and I'm going to go for Raspadori and Politano.
Well, I know it's spelled Politano because it's already written in my book, but what was the first thing?
Raspadori. So Raspadori, Politano, and yes, I would like sprinkles with that.
And for your, casual racist remarks, please join into this podcast. Finishes off for this week, Mr. Moore. Italy versus England.
I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Nice.
And I've gone, is it Scamacca? The
West Ham.
Yeah. And Abraham.
Now I see what he's done there. Technically, you can't have the old boy rule in international football, but you can have the boy plays in that country rule. We might come to that in a little while. We might even come to it now, as England will play Germany in their second game of the week, where I have gone for a 2-0 win for England, with Kane and Bellingham to score the goals. Obviously, Jude Bellingham, playing for Borussia Dortmund, scored in the Champions League against Man City the other week, and I feel like he will do the same this week for England. We had him last time, the last game. We'll go for Matt now on this particular game.
I have been less patriotic than you, and I've gone for a 2-1 Germany win.
Interesting. 1-2.
And I've gone for the old boy rules. Used to play in England, now play back in Germany, I think. Leroy Sané.
Yes.
With the umlaut over the E as well, please. And Werner, Timothy Werner.
Timo.
Uh-huh. Get a bit of that sweet, sweet revenge.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ivan Toney to score.
Yeah, I was contemplating putting old Tones in one of the games, but I don't even know if he'll come on. I don't know if he'll play, to be honest with you.
I would say if these are the last two games they've got before the World Cup, which I think it is.
No, they'll have some friendlies, surely.
No, these are it.
I don't think so. I think it's straight into the World Cup. I really don't. Yeah, I think it's going to be an absolute shit show. But we'll talk about that in November. But I think Tony will definitely get a game because they're going to want to see what they're going to get. He'll at least get a half, I think. And that's why I picked him and Abraham as well.
I think it makes sense. Mr. Cook?
I was going to say, is this a situation that has to have a winner, or can I go with a draw? Because I've picked a draw.
No, a draw's fine.
Okay, so I've gone with a 1-1 draw. Sterling to score for England and Muller to score for Germany.
Sterling and Muller. I'll even give you the umlauts over the U, like I did for Matt's E. Mr. Woodmansey, you have the joy of ending the week for us.
And ending England's stay in the division in the Nations League as well. I'm going for England 1, Germany 3.
Ooh, bit of a tonking on home soil.
Yeah. I'm going to go for Saka for England. A little bit off the beaten path. And for Germany, very similar to Matt, in the sense of I've got Werner, Sané and Gundogan.
3 old boys / continuous boys. Now, unfortunately, I know that Gundogan has a lot of strange bits over his name at random points. So I'm just going to leave that as English letters. But I do know that he does have couple of umlauts in his name / accents over his letters. So I'm sure when he knocks one in from about 50 yards on Monday next week, I'll know exactly how his name's spelled. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is your England predictions done for what is officially week 8, I believe. Well, it might even be week 9. It's week 9. I do apologise. Week 9 of the season. Unless you gentlemen have anything else to bring up.
There was something on the back of the England stuff announced today. Have you seen all the stuff about the captain's armband they're introducing? So, going forward, without the approval of FIFA at this point, I might add, England are introducing a rainbow-coloured captain's armband in an effort to raise awareness about discrimination in the game. All positive. I love the fact that they're doing this just before the World Cup in Qatar. Draw from that what you will. Whether FIFA or not will permit it, because they don't like any kind of political or statement against anything that might cause the least bit of controversy. We'll turn our head to everything else that's going on in the world. That remains to be seen, but at least they're giving it a go. So we'll see what happens, and again, we'll probably come up around November time.
So say that in the World Cup they have the official captain's armbands, don't they, which are all liveried up with FIFA emblem,
livery and whatnot.
Yeah. But it's good to kind of to have it for friendly games and other games and stuff like that. But the big bad FIFA will no doubt stomp it out quickly.
Paul, I didn't want to step all over your Middlesbrough toes, but I didn't know if there was going to be a mention of the Middlesbrough fans supporting.
Yeah, so this was something that had come out in the. Obviously, people who watch Soccer Saturday will have noticed that Chris Kamara has been quite notable with his absence from the show since about the second half of last season. And it turns out he's suffering with apraxia.
Yeah,
I believe. And he did an interview where he said that he feels somewhat of a fraud now because he can't elaborate his thoughts and his feelings and things like that. So obviously he's a favoured son of Middlesbrough. They're obviously born there, was born in I believe in a similar area to the chairman. Steve Gibson was friends with him as a child. Eventually did get a chance to play for the club in the early 90s. And as a show of sort of solidarity with Cammy, the Middlesbrough supporters in the red faction area of the ground unveiled a banner on Saturday's game against Rotherham that said, I don't have the exact words to hand unless you've got it, Mr. Cook.
I have got it here. It was 2 banners and it read, "You're not a fraud, you're unbelievable, Cammy."
Obviously a nice little touch, sort of incorporating that he has nothing to be ashamed of, and the fact that it incorporated his well-known catchphrase. So, just a little sort of well done to the members of the Red faction for standing up for one of their own, so to speak.
I think it's because he does a podcast with Ben Shepherd where they interview legends of the game. The only one I've heard is Neil Warnock. We could look to make that. So, what I would do is listen, if you can find that podcast still there, listen just to the first part of it, because he talks a lot about what he's gone through, kind of thing. So I think he kind of quit Sky Sports, like you said he was retiring. And it sounds brutal, kind of what he's having, like electric shock kind of things to help his brain fire, and he's having to go through speech therapy to kind of learn how to speak again. And he talks about the fact that he finds it more difficult to talk when he's got a script. So if he's got a script, he finds it more challenging because he's thinking about what he's saying. as opposed to when he's talking, not like just chatting. He
Yeah,
finds
just like off the cuff.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah, whereas the moment he has to think about it, that's when the brain and everything kind of starts to get kind of garbled up and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a really nice touch to kind of see that and kind of encouraging, but kind of show the support for him, which is, it must be difficult. It must be difficult, when you see a lot of kind of sportsmen, when they have that kind of anything that goes wrong physically for them, considering that at some point they were of physical peak kind of things, that then they're now not that, and it must be a pretty life-shaking kind of thing.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
People to then support them is good.
Was there something that had happened to the Hull chairman, actually, Stu?
Oh yeah, that is also true. Gosh, yeah, it's been a bit of a busy weekend for the lad, because he'd obviously quite comfortably had his trousers pulled down on Saturday morning or early afternoon in Cardiff, in Swansea, and then took himself off to Istanbul for the weekend, where he was involved in a car accident on Monday. Looks like he's got a broken arm out of it, and was requiring surgery as well. So surgery was scheduled for Tuesday, this past Tuesday. No further news really that I've seen about it, but thankfully it wasn't life-threatening, but it sounded pretty severe. So yeah, best wishes to the chairman, and who knows, maybe that's what saved Shotter's job for the time being. I mean, I'm sure the two aren't connected. I didn't say that. But yeah, start your conspiracies now. So yeah, but no, in all seriousness, best wishes to the chairman, because he's had a lot to do in a short period of time, and being hit by a car kind of puts the football into perspective. So yeah.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That puts a nice, neat little bow on the week's events. Obviously, I want to thank these three gentlemen for joining me to talk through it, and join us again next week, where we'll go through the inevitable England demise, and we'll go right ahead and talk about all that shape and passing style that the three teams have worked on in this international break, and whether it's going to make any bit of a dam in their next league fixtures. But that's for next week's podcast. But for this week, thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.
So there you go, what do you think to that? International football for you. If you enjoyed the podcast and you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. You can also like, share and comment. Drop us a review. Tell us what you think to it. If you want to get a bit more personal, you can drop over to thecookiecast.com. That's our website. There we've got social media links and an email button for you to get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.